Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Matt here from Chill TCG. Today we're going to be taking a look at a lot of the tournaments from this first week of the new Chilling Reign format. The new Pokemon TCG expansion Chilling Reign just came out. Of course, tons of new cards, tons of new decks, and I think everyone is just really interested to see what the best decks to play right now are, and really what the meta is shaping up to look like. I know it's really early, but now is as good a time as ever to take a look at what's kind of been going on in this past week. So it's Sunday as I record this, and we're back, and this is our weekly, meta analysis series. It's not very weekly, I apologize, but with this new format coming out, I'm actually going to try to do this as weekly as I possibly can. But we're here on the play.limitless.com website, the best website to go, really, for any of your, if you were looking to play in tournaments or just see what people are playing, find deck lists, find tournament results, all that good stuff. So we're going to start off, and we're just going to go in order from, the most recent to, of course, from the beginning of when the, when the new set came out. So we're going to get a good idea of kind of the decks and just sort of, get a good grasp of everything. So I think that as we look at this, the first one that we're going to take a look at was the Channel Fireball Pro Showdown standard format, and this is all going to be standard format. This was yesterday on Saturday as I record this. Channel Fireball tournament, 129 players. Which is definitely pretty interesting. I think right off the bat, we're going to go and look at the metagame. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than some of the other tournaments because I don't believe... Maybe this one was free entry. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, it might have been, actually. So, yeah, it is free to enter. Okay. But the meta here is interesting right off the bat as I take a look at it. So, the most played deck at 16.5% meta share was Shadow Rider Calyrex. Interesting to note that the win percentage was extremely high. In fact, the win percentage for like all of these decks here was over 50%, which I don't know how that happens. I don't know exactly how that works. To be 100% honest with you, I'm not exactly sure. Interesting nonetheless. I think it was because if you lost one game, you were out or something of the such. I'm not exactly sure. Let me go to standings so I can check. Yeah, so if you lost a game, you got dropped. So that's why the win percentage was a little bit off. But I guess based off that, keep that in mind. The lowest it could possibly be is 50%, the way that the tournament was ran. But Shadow Rider Calyrex was the most played. Then Decidueye was second, actually. Decidueye has been a pretty good call recently. At the beginning of formats, Decidueye turns out to be really good. We got ADP, Luke Metal, Ice Rider, Etern, then Blaziken's Aurora, Rapid Strike Malamar, single prize. And then we have Urshifu all the way down here, which is crazy. And then we have Mewtwo Dark Box, so I think that's Weavile Dark Box, I'm not sure. And then we have Single Strike, Altaria, Blissy, all this other good stuff down here. So let's take a look at some of the decks. Of course, Shadow Rider did end up winning. It was Teledeath. And let's take a look at his Shadow Rider list. This video is mainly to just take a look at all the lists that did well recently. And this is super interesting, actually. So this is a Shadow Rider that, is traditional Calyrex Shadow Rider. We have the Gengar Mimikyu in here. That's pretty standard, I think, if you're running Shadow Rider. But what's interesting to me is that we actually have a 1-1 Alcremie lineup thrown in here. So it's a combination of Alcremie and Gengar Mimikyu. And I actually quite like that. For 2 energies, we can do a lot of damage with Alcremie. So it's honestly just a really good attacking option. It also has a different weakness as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. And then we also had a Galarian Zapdos V in here, which everybody kind of techs in at least one Zapdos V in their Shadow Rider list with a couple of Aurora energies. It's an easy tech to kind of at least have a decent... I guess, chance of competing against Eternatus VMAX, which is just kind of something interesting that I wanted to, point out. But, yeah, so here it is. This is the Shadow Rider list that actually won. We have 2 Ordinary Rods, which is actually really cool. On top of that, we're running 14 energies in total. So, one Sonia in here as well. This is a very interesting Calyrex Shadow Rider list. I really expect that the Shadow Rider list to change a whole lot as time goes on, if I'm being 100% honest with you. But that's kind of what won this tournament, which is actually crazy. The dude went 8-0. Second was Ice Rider. So let's take a look at an Ice Rider list. And this is Cinccino Ice Rider, and this is, in my opinion, the best way to play. And this is an Ice Rider list that I actually quite like. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. So, we have a 4-3 Ice Rider lineup. We have a 3-3 Cinccino lineup. That's kind of our draw engine here. We're running a high count of Melanie, high count of Capacious Bucket, but a low count of energies with 3 Path to the Peaks in here. And this kind of seems to be the most accepted way to play Calyrex. It's awesome to see that Cinccino The Cincino engine is actually really playable right now. It's seeing a lot of success, and in my opinion, it does go really well with Calyrex. We're running this 4 scoop up nets in here, and that's mainly because, of course, we do have things like Mewtwo and Zigzagoon, which is going to be really good, of course, to get that Melanie back on the top of the deck, because this deck really just likes to kind of shuffle through Melanie every turn and make sure that we can just attack for 250 over and over again. That's what this list really does best. So I like it. I really like this list quite a bit, and it's definitely... Yeah, it's definitely what I would expect to be playing. The Mars Shadow is interesting, though. The Mars Shadow is interesting with 3 Path to the Peaks. Really defending against Chaotic Swell. But yeah, here we go. Ice Rider. Ice Rider is my favorite new deck from Chilling Reign for sure. So it's awesome to see that. And I guess we'll take a look at this Decidueye list as well. And then we'll move on to another tournament. But so this is actually really interesting. This is Inteleon Decidueye, so it's a combination. I quite like this, though, because Shady Dealings, we can search our deck for trainer cards. And as we slowly evolve up from our Sobble to Drizzile to Inteleon, with Shady Dealings, we can search our deck for multiple trainer cards, and that's going to facilitate our ability to evolve into Decidueye, which, again, is just going to be kind of our auto-win matchup. But these Inteleons actually have pretty decent attacking options. Of course, with the Shady Dealings Inteleon, we can attack. We don't have water energy in the list. But with this Rapid Strike one, we can attach 2 energies and hit for 70. However, we're probably going to be playing this card to use the quick shooting ability and put 2 damage counters onto our opponent's Pokemon once per turn. But the Shady Dealings is super cool. I like the Snorlax, Mew, Fion, all things that are pretty necessary. And we see Big Parasol and Stealthy Hood making a return. 2 very defensive Pokemon tool cards. We're not running we're not actually running the Tag Call engine. We're not running Big Charm and all that good stuff, but we are running 1 Malalana, 1 Cynthia and Caitlyn. No real way to search them out other than, of course, Shady Dealings, which you can search our deck for any trainer card. So this is actually really cool. 3rd place, Decidueye. If this is kind of what Decidueye turns into, I'm actually really excited because this is a super creative way to play Decidueye, and it's a really affordable list as well. It's actually, relatively extremely easy to build. And we're not actually running any Dart Tricks in here now that I realized, but we are running Rare Candy, so super cool for sure. And also, if we go straight from Sobble to Shady Dealings Inteleon, the Shady Dealings ability on this Inteleon actually does still proc because we're evolving it from our hand, even though we're skipping an evolution cycle with Rare Candy. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Awesome, really cool list. So Channel Fireball tournament, really impressed by that. Let's go back to tournaments, and then we'll go to completed. And yeah. Okay, so we'll move on, and then the next one I think we're going to take a look at. We're going to only probably take a look at the bigger tournaments, to be 100% honest with you. And the next one up is probably going to be this Lux Series Season 1, Week 3, which had 123 players, won by Yu Ito. Now, we have plenty of really interesting lists to take a look at here. I think we'll take a look at these first 3 because there's a lot of really awesome new lists this week and definitely a lot of really interesting things to take a look at. So this is going to be the winning list, Yu Ito. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but this is going to be Inteleon Urshifu, which is, again, another new way that people are playing Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. People's lists for Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX have changed so much since this card came out. People were running Scoop Up Net Jirachi. Some people were running Octillery, the Rapid Strike Search Octillery. Some people were running Cinccino, and now people are running Inteleon. So there's a lot of different ways to play Rapid Strike Urshifu. This seems to be kind of like the most accepted way, which I actually quite like. So again, we're running a high count of Sobble, Drizzile, and Inteleon, a 4-4-4 lineup. But we're actually running 3 of the quick shooting Rapid Strike Inteleon. So this is going to be kind of to fix math. Realistically, we're going to be kind of utilizing this along with Passimian to kind of ping something for 4, and then we can rapid flow for, or not 4, but to 50 actually, so we can do 50 damage. Oh no, this is damage counters, so Passimian doesn't actually work with this Inteleon. But this is 2 damage counters on top of rapid flow from Urshifu VMAX, which again will add up to 150 to 2 bench Pokemon, which is actually really crazy to think about. So I like the Hoop in here as well. It's just a 1 energy attached, potentially do a lot of damage off a single prizer. Again, just to kind of finish off some KOs. The Passimian to increase bench damage, Dedenne draw some cards, Jirachi GX turn off our weakness, and a Mew to protect our bench. So I like it. This is again, it's the Shady Dealings engine is actually becoming a lot more played than it used to be. Realistically, Scoop Up Net Jirachi, Stellar Wish Jirachi was kind of like the the norm, I guess, kind of the normal, draw engine that most decks were running, or at least a lot of decks were running. Now it seems to be Inteleon, which is actually really, really cool. And I think that because we have this other Inteleon, the Rapid Strike one, kind of opens up possibilities, right? Because we can evolve into either of these while also kind of going through Drizzile and searching our deck for a trainer card. So it's actually really, really cool. I like the Karate Belts in here. We're running a high count of level balls, of course, so we can search our deck for the Drizzile and Sobbles and the Mew as well. All good things that I like a lot. We have a Stamp in here. We're not running Telescopic Sight, and that's a little bit interesting, but we are running an Air Balloon Karate Belt. It really depends on what kind of focus you're giving to your Rapid Strike Urshifu list. So I don't think it's that big of a deal, but definitely interesting as well. The only stadium we're running is Tower of Water, so again, this gives us more free retreat. So 2 Switch, 1 Escape Rope, and then 1 Air Balloon with Tower of Water. So interesting nonetheless, very interesting. But this is a cool, I like this one a lot. I really like this Urshifu list, and it did end up winning a pretty big tournament as well. So it's definitely viable, and I think if you're going to play Rapid Strike Urshifu right now, which again is interesting, there's definitely kind of a power triangle going around right now, kind of a power struggle in a sense, where we have Eternatus, Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, and Calyrex Shadow Rider VMAX all kind of hitting for weakness on each other. It's like kind of a cycle. And all 3 of those decks are phenomenal decks right now. So depending on which way the format goes, you can really pick any of those lists and do pretty well with. So this is a new and improved Urshifu list. I'll have to make a video on this at some point. I like that one a lot. Next up, we have Colin T, and he was playing ADP, which I believe is ADP. Okay, yeah. ADP like Moltres. So it's actually super interesting. I guess you would just call this like ADP Box, honestly, in my opinion. And I quite like this a lot. So we're running 2 Moltres, 2 ADP, 2 Dedenne, Crobat, and then 1 Zapdos, 1 Zacian. So realistically, it's in terms of Pokemon count, it's just kind of straight ADP, but instead of running 3 or 4 Zacian Vs, we have 2 Moltres and 1 Zapdos thrown in here. This, of course, is going to hit for Dark Weakness on Calyrex, which is going to be super important, and then this is going to hit for weakness on Eternatus, and of course, we still have a Zacian in the list, so it's actually a really clever list. This might actually be my favorite ADP list that I've seen in a really, really long time. You can't even call this ADP Zacian, it's just ADP, ADP Box. And it's definitely super, super cool. So we have 4 Aurora Energies in here, 5 Metal, 4 Dark, and then 2 Water. I assume the Water Energies, again, are here for the ADP, for the Altered Creation GX, but Aurora Energy is going to work for that as well, but it's also going to work with Moltres, and it's going to work with Zapdos. It's going to work for everything. It's Aurora Energy, but I like the high count of Metal as well. It's just a really creative list. It really is super, super creative. One thing I want to note, though, is that we do not have any way to remove Path to the Peaks, or kind of prevent Path to the Peaks. Of course, now you can just play your own stadium, and that's going to remove Path to the Peak, and that should be fine. We're running a high count of Viridian Forest, 3 to be exact, so as long as somebody isn't running like Marshadows or a bunch of Path to the Peaks, you should be consistently kind of removing those from play with the Viridian Forest here, and I do quite like Viridian Forest. Very underappreciated stadium card. It's extremely good in a lot of decks right now. It's good in Calyrex, Ice Rider, and Shadow Rider. It's good in ADP. It's good in Inteleon. It's good in just really almost any deck right now. Very offensive, very fast-paced stadium card, whereas things like Chaotic Swell and Path to the Peak are more defensive. So I really like this list. I've said that a bunch of times, but I do. It's super, super cool, and I highly recommend. If you're wanting to play ADP, I know ADP is a ladder reward right now, so if you have ADP, maybe you can just kind of scrummage up a list like this and try to compete. It's definitely super, super cool. Yeah, man, Moltres and Zapdos are seeing a whole lot of play in our format. Too bad Articuno isn't seeing a whole lot of play. It's a little bit sad, but that ADP list, man, was super, super cool. And we actually had a Spiritomb. Now, Spiritomb, I guess, has a lot of room right now to be viable because Shadow Rider is so popular and it's weak to Dark, and Spiritomb is kind of our best Dark-type single-prize archetype. Nothing too crazy here out of the ordinary. It's just Spike Myth Spiritomb, which was a list that I covered a little while ago. At the beginning of Battle Styles format, Spiritomb kind of resurged and was a bit popular for a bit, which was interesting. With Mew, this list can do a whole lot of damage. It's one of the hardest decks to play in terms of proper sequencing, but it can be very rewarding and can be very successful if played properly. But I do really like Spiritomb. It's very underappreciated, and it goes extremely well with things like Hiding Energy, Spike Myth, Escape Rope, Scoop Up Net, Switch. It's just, I'm not going to go super in depth about how to play a list like this or what it's based around, but the primary reason for this, or I guess idea here, is that Spiritomb does more damage the more damage counters are on Spiritomb. We have Cape of Toughness to increase this thing up to 111 HP, so you can get 10 damage counters onto this thing, and I believe you're doing 310 damage if you have all 10 damage counters placed on Spiritomb, which is a lot of damage for sure, a ton amount of damage. But the way that we put damage counters onto Spiritomb easily is, of course, its ability, and then we have Spike Myth, which puts damage counters onto both your opponent's Pokemon and yours if you switch in and out of the active spot. So we put Spike Myth into play, and then we have things like Escape Rope, Switch, Bird Keeper, Scoop Up Net to kind of move things in and out of the active spot, Hiding Energy to retreat. That's how we build up damage counters on Spiritomb. It's a very good list, very good deck. We have Jinx to move damage counters between Pokemon, or Choreo because it's a single prize archetype. So a list that I really, really like. A list that I really like a whole lot. Yeah, Spike. It's Spike with Spiritomb, man. It's making a comeback. I actually love to see it. All right, we're going to move on. I know there's some cool lists down here that we could potentially take a look at, but we're just going to move on, and we're going to see if there isn't some more cool lists in other tournaments. So I think that the next one we're going to take a look at here is, I suppose, yeah, we can take a look at Yosefi Thursday Madness Series 2-4. I'm not sure. 113 players, though, which is super good. And, yeah, let's take a look at Yosefi's tournament. So, interesting nonetheless. I guess we can take a look at this metagame. So Shadow Rider, E-Turn, Ice Rider. This was a little bit earlier on in the format, so we can kind of see how things were. We should be going from old to new, I suppose, but we're going in the opposite order. So Urshifu and Teleon won this tournament as well, and like I said, this is an extremely good list. And this is kind of yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the last one that we saw. I can't remember the distinct differences, although this one does have Telescopic Sight, which I like, and like I said, depending on what kind of your focus is for the list, Telescopic Sight could be put in here, or Karate Belt. Both are definitely really viable in their own right. But this Urshifu list with Inteleon is successful. It is good. Does have good synergy. It's a phenomenal list. Rapid Strike cards are just busted. Too bad Single Strike cards aren't that good. Ryota Sato got second. This looks to be more normalized, straight ADP. Let's take a look here. Never mind. Never mind at all. This is perhaps one of the strangest ADP lists that I have seen in an extremely long time. But super, super cool. Again, it's kind of just ADP box. We are running a 2-2 Bronzong Metal Transfer, so that's kind of be the way that we can move energies instead of running energy switches. Totally cool. Totally cool for sure. Running 4 Aurora, 8 Metal Energies, so no other basics other than Metal. But because we are running Aurora Energies, we actually can run a lot of different cards in the list. Things like, of course, Zapdos V, Ninetales V, and Vikavolt V. These are kind of our secondary attacking options behind these two Zacian that we have in the list. Crobat, Dedenne, Mew, all standard stuff, but we actually have a Zacian Amazing Rare in here as well. And the Zacian Amazing Rare is super interesting. It kind of does go well with Aurora Energies. We can put double Aurora on the Zacian. Now, Metal Transfer on Bronzong, you can move Aurora Energies because when they're on your board attached to Pokemon, they count as Metal Energies. So we can actually move these Auroras between Pokemon with Bronzong, and we can set up the Zacian here to do Amazing Sword after the ADP boost. This thing is one-shotting VMAX Pokemon. Does a 330 damage, I believe. Something absolutely crazy like that. Which is crazy for a single prize Pokemon. So I actually like this inclusion. I really, really do. This is actually the biggest potential heavy hitter in the whole deck, and it's Zacian. It's a single prizer. Amazing rare. Really awesome list. Ryota Sato, phenomenal player. Great player. And this list might be, again, ADP has quickly become actually one of my favorite lists in our format right now, just because based off of all the different ways that people are playing ADP, it's actually super interesting. And I have a lot of fun taking a look at all these lists. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. This one is super. That one's crazy. And then, of course, we have Luke Metal. We took a look at Luke Metal at Chill Series because it did do very well at Chill Series. But this is kind of what Luke Metal's looking like right now. Pretty standard Luke Metal. Instead, now we're running kind of a lower count of Tackle, higher count of Quick Ball, multiple Chaotic Swells. We're kind of committing to Chaotic Swell because Path to the Peak is so common. And, of course, we have our Marshadow Resetting Hold to get rid of those Path to the Peaks because they can be very detrimental to this list because we like to, of course, Intrepid Sword as often as we can. And we like to Dauntless Shield wall things with Zamazenta. So here's Luke Metal. This is what Luke Metal's looking like. For all you Luke Metal buffs out there, I'm sure you're probably interested. Run 3 Malalanas. It's definitely good. I recommend that. I recommend that for sure. What else can we take a look at here? I guess Vinny Fernandez. I guess he was running Guardian. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this, but he did pretty well. So yeah, it's just Gardevoir and Sylveon Tag Team GX. Fairy, Wonder Lab. Path to the Peak, I guess, is what really makes this deck a little bit more viable. Interesting. I don't got too much to say about this. I don't know much at all about this archetype or fairy decks in general. They just don't really exist in my head, in my brain at the moment. But shout out to Vinny for busting this out, doing well. It's always kind of cool to see. All right, so that was the Yosefi Thursday Madness. I'm going to go up and see if we actually missed something here. Okay, so yeah, the Sinichi SOS monthly number 5, Pedro Torres, my man. He had a 93-player tournament. Let's take a look at some of the decks in here. Go to the metagame. So Ice Rider was the most played, then Luke Metal, E-Turn, Shadow Rider. So these are kind of like the big 4, I guess, that the decks that are seeing a whole lot of play. I guess ADP was banned for this event, which would make sense. So ADP would be in there, so that's kind of the big 5, I guess. But Urshifu, man, Urshifu's been really successful. It just hasn't been played a whole lot. But anyway, yeah, I think ADP was banned for this event, but we'll take a look at it anyway. Could be some cool lists. Now, this is going to be the Mewtwo Weavile deck list, which is super interesting in its own right. And this is going to be Dark Box Mewtwo. But the reason that this list is a little bit more relevant nowadays is because we don't have to run Hydreigon to accelerate energies. Excuse me, we can get multiple Moltres on our board and accelerate to the Moltres with Dire Flame Wings, and then we can move them to our other Pokemon with Weavile GX. And that's a very, powerful kind of combination, powerful strategy there. Also, being a Dark type is really good. We hit for weakness on things like Calyrex, but being a Psychic type is really good because we hit for weakness on things like Urshifu. So being a Psychic and Dark combination type deck is actually really advantageous right now. And a super creative list nonetheless. Extremely creative. I made a video on Mewtwo Dark Box back when Hydreigon from Darkness Ablaze was our energy acceleration engine. But now I think with Moltres, we have Silvally GX in here and Weavile GX. I think that this list is a little bit more refined and a little bit more spicy, which I do like for sure. So yeah, we have a red and blue tag team, Malulana, Guzmahala, tag call engine, tons of tag team Pokemon in here. Umbreon and Darkrai is an incredible attacker. Mega Sableye Tyranitar GX is actually a really crazy attacker as well if you can get the energies onto it. And then we have Greninja and Zoroark, which if we get all 10 of these energies on board, this thing is doing crazy damage. So you just kind of have to keep that in mind. Also, I mean, Moltres we can attack with this guy here, 190 damage. Yeah, so, I mean, we're not going to be able to utilize Miraculous Duo GX on Mewtwo, but we're going to be able to copy the attacks of this guy, this guy, and this guy, which is really powerful, realistically. So, super cool. Again, the only Mewtwo deck that I really see play right now, Mewtwo isn't seeing play in Shadow Rider. People are just playing Trevenant, Dusknoir, or, Gengar Mimikyu. They're kind of foregoing just running Mewtwo and Mew GX in general, which I find to be interesting. But this seems to be really the only Mewtwo deck that is... seeing play or seeing success at least right now in our format, and it just happens to be Dark Box. So I really like it. The Psychic combination with Dark type is actually really interesting for sure, and I really do like this list. I think that one's really cool as well. So many awesome lists right now. It's like such a good time to be watching or playing Pokemon or analyzing the meta, I guess you could say. Here's a single strike Urshifu. This is the first time I've seen one of these bad boys do anything really substantial in a while. I think it got second, right? Was that what this was? Was this second place? Got third place. So third place at 93 players, still really, really good. Nothing much has really changed here, but I do think that if you're running single strike Urshifu VMAX, I like the Dojo thrown in there on top of Tower of Darkness. I think that's pretty cool. But on top of this, I think it's extremely smart to be running Tyranitar V. It goes really well in this list, has a lot of synergy, but it's a powerful Dark type attacker. Having a Dark type attacker and a Fighting type attacker is advantageous, right? Because we can hit for weakness on Eternatus and Shadow Rider Calyrex, which are two of some of our best decks in the format right now. So Tyranitar should be in your list. It's definitely pretty much needed, as well as Jirachi GX and Mew right now. Definitely really good meta calls. Definitely super good meta calls. And again, it's single strike Urshifu. Like I said, it's not super crazy right now. It's not super relevant, but potentially it could be. We just don't see single strike decks or single strike cards have that much success. They're kind of put to the side, because a lot of people do prefer rapid strike, Urshifu and Teleon, all that type of stuff. So shout out to single strike, though. It's definitely super cool, and I know a lot of people really like single strike, so keep that in mind as we take a look at that. All right, let's go back and let's see if there's maybe one more that we missed. So this one here was 91 players, and this is Card Cavern Trading Cards Series number 3 from PTCG Out League. So let's go ahead and take a look at the decks here. Okay, so let's just take a look at the winning Shadow Rider list. We've already taken a look at a few, but perhaps this one could surprise us. Okay, so this is more standard Shadow Rider. We have the 4-4 lineup, the 2 Zapdos, but we have a 1 Gengar Mimikyu, 1 Trevenant and Dusknoir. I kind of like that, although a lot of the successful Shadow Rider lists that have been winning don't actually run Trevenant, which is super interesting to me. But Gengar Mimikyu. We also have a Cresselia in here, and I really like to see Cresselia in a winning Shadow Rider list. I think Cresselia is extremely good. And it really kind of gives you a lot more flexibility in going first or going second. Either way, you kind of prefer. If you go first, we can set up Gengar Mimikyu and Horror House on our second turn, which is going to be really advantageous. Or if we're going second, we can go ahead and get into Cresselia and then Phantom Crescent Glow. We can Crescent Glow and accelerate 3 energies to something like a Trevenant and Dusknoir. So this list has a lot of flexibility. It can go first or second. It prefers it kind of both ways. It's an extremely powerful list. So I like this one. It kind of does it all. And I really do enjoy Shadow Rider. It's a very, very fun deck. So yeah, very cool. And you might be like, can you consistently get these Pokemon out on your first turn? You really can, because you're running 4 Fog Crystals. And we have things like 2 Switch cards and 2 Escape Robes. So pretty, at least somewhat confident that we're going to be able to get those Pokemon out on our first turn. So that's just something to keep in mind. But awesome. So there's a Shadow Rider. Let's take a look at Blissy. We haven't taken a look at Blissy today, and then we're going to take a look at that E-Turn list. So this is extremely similar, if not the exact same Blissy list that did well at Chill Series this week. Blissy, man, it's just 4 of these bad boys in the deck. We have Wonder Lab, Draw Energy, Lucky Energy, Powerful Energy, Weak Guard, and Capture. If you don't know what Blissy does, is you attack for just 1 energy, but after you attack, you can attach 3 energies from your discard pile to Blissy. It also has 250 HP, which is crazy. Add Cape of Toughness, that's 300 HP. And after we take a couple hits or attack a few times, we're pretty much one-shotting anything in the format. And we can run 4 Path to the Peaks, because why not? So a really, really cool list. I also like double reset stamp, 4 crushing hammers. It's just a really interesting list. It's super good. I'll have to make a video on Blissy at some point. Hold me to that, because this is one of my favorite lists right now that people are playing. And Blissy is good, man. It definitely is pretty good. So that's I love to see it. We love to see Blissy up here. And I guess what we can do is take a look at this E-Turn list. We haven't seen E-Turn in quite a while. And this is going to be the Weavile GX with Moltres version of Eternatus right now. There was one that did pretty well at Chill Series. It wasn't running Weavile, but it was just running a 3 energy switch, or 2 or 3 energy switch with Moltres, which is similar effect, but perhaps maybe less consistent overall. But yeah, this is kind of the idea with E-Turn now, right? E-Turn always struggled with accelerating energies. We just didn't really have a consistent way of doing that. Now with Moltres, at least with Moltres, it can accelerate dark energies to itself. And then we use Weavile GX to move it to E-Turn. So that's really the whole idea of this list. It's just kind of standard Eternatus with 1 Cheryl thrown in here. I think if we have Weavile GX, it's nice to have a Cheryl in here as well. So I really like it. E-Turn, it's not in a great spot. Everyone is playing Zapdos in their list because it just kind of walls E-Turn. It's just like a free KO, especially if you're not running Big Charm. And there's still a lot of Rapid Strike Urshifu and Single Strike Urshifu going around right now. So potentially not the best time to be playing E-Turn, but it's still an extremely powerful deck. Still a really good deck in our format. So, I'm not going to, get on you for it if you're playing Eternatus right now. It's still a really cool list. But that's that E-Turn. Anything else in here that we could potentially take a look at? There's a Malamar list here. We haven't actually looked at Malamar recently, right? Or this in this video. This is Malamar VMAX. So it's interesting. There are 2 different Malamars in our format right now. There's the new Rapid Strike Single Prize Malamar, which came out in Chilling Reign, but there's actually the Malamar VMAX, which I believe came out in Rebel Clash or Darkness Ablaze. I'm not sure, but an extremely interesting card. Does 180 damage for 3. But then, of course, I think we get to remove 2 cards from our opponent's hand, which is an extremely powerful attack. It's almost like the new Trevenant and Dusknoir, honestly. But again, it's a little bit hard and a little bit awkward to set up sometimes, right? For that reason, we have, again, the Moltres, Galarian Moltres V, and we have 3 energy switches to move those energies to Malamar. And we do have a Zapdos in here with some Aurora energies, Path to the Peaks, Radiant Forests. It's kind of like a control deck, right? We have double reset stamp for Marnie, Galarian Moltres. That's kind of the idea behind the list, or not, sorry, Malamar VMAX. That's kind of the idea behind the deck. So this is like another one that I definitely want to make a video on, and I definitely probably will here coming up. So I want to make a video on Blissy. I want to make a video on that new Inteleon Urshifu deck, and I want to cover Malamar VMAX. Those are my kind of 3 decks that I really want to cover right now. So I'm definitely super interested in doing that. So Awesome. This one is super cool. I always thought Malamar could be really, really good. It's just kind of, it's very similar to Trevenant and Dusknoir, I think. Unless I'm forgetting it, what it does. I'll have to check. Reveal their hand, choose a card you find there, and put it on the bottom of their deck. Okay, so it's not 2 blindly, but it's 1, but you get to pick, which is actually really powerful. So a lot of times you can stamp them to 2 or 3, or just Marnie them to 4, and it's almost kind of unlikely that they might have more than 1 out in their hand out of those 4 cards or so. So that's kind of the idea there. So super, super cool. Definitely awesome. Definitely really, really awesome. And then, of course, we have Chill Series number 36 down here. I did a separate video where we took a look at the top 16 decks, all of them. And that's a very similar type video to this, except we kind of make sure that we give the people at Chill Series their shine. So I definitely recommend go checking out that video if you haven't checked it out already. Tons of really great lists. And we'll just kind of hover over it here. But all of these guys right here, so all of these decks. So we had tons of Shadow Riders, Luke Metal, Blaziken's Aurora, Urshifu, Pikarom, Etern. If you guys want to go and check out all these lists, I highly recommend that you go watch that video that I posted the other day. But Chill Series 36 was a great tournament, had over 400 players, and Chill Series number 37 will be this Wednesday. I don't have the link to it yet. The link will be posted tomorrow, so you'll have to wait a little bit for that. But I'll post a video tomorrow and let you guys know when that tournament is open. And we'll have tons of Chilling Reign packs in the prize pool. So anyway, guys, that's it. That's the video. We're going to get out of here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tons of super awesome decks right now. And really, that's kind of my goal with this video, is every week give you a good idea of all of the different decks and deck lists that people are playing to all these online events, and hopefully prep you or give you some inspiration as to what you should be playing whenever you go and play in a tournament. Hopefully it's Chill Series, but could be any other tournament as well. So that's the idea of the video. Hopefully you guys like it. I'm going to try to do it every week as this new Chilling Reign format evolves. It's always standard format. That's what we kind of rock with here. But yeah, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully this was somewhat interesting to you guys. It was very interesting to me, and it gives me a lot of inspiration on things to make videos on in the future. So definitely super cool. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching Chill Series on Wednesday. Like the video, subscribe. It means a lot to me. More videos are coming this week. Probably posting one tomorrow as well. So definitely go check that out. I'm going to get out of here, guys. I've been Matty from Chill TCG. Have a good night. See you guys next time.